Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. I am Pharmacist Taiwo Olawayemi, and this is Pharma Incubation Hub. Pharma Incubation Hub is a program for pharmacy students across Nigeria that seeks to help them to be exceptional, especially as they prepare for career as pharmacists. So the program basically involves a series of training sessions on leadership as well as mentorship and research. Today, we will be having a session on the role of pharmacists in bioengineering. And it's such an honor to have here with us a senior colleague, Dr. Margaret Ilumuaya, who is a formulation scientist and who is blazing trails in the field of bioengineering. And I believe that all of you here uh, have joined today's session in order to learn a lot about what she does and about how you can also position yourselves in that field, especially if you've got an interest in biotechnology, bioengineering, and similar fields. Dr. Margaret Ilumoya is a pharmacist, a drug developer, and a lecturer who has demonstrated history of working in the education industry. She's skilled in pharmaceutics, liquid chromatography, mass spectrometry, as well as other scientific methods in those areas. I should mention that she graduated from the University of Lagos. So those of you who are students of Unilag, you should be so excited right now. She currently works with pharmaceutical industries in topical dosage form development, in the development of nutritional support for children, as well as in pharmaceutical development and analysis, alongside HIV and AIDS prophylaxis development. Her research expertise spans novel drug delivery techniques, delivery of topical dosage forms utilized as creams and gels for delivery of drugs in HIV microbicide development, as well as in wound healing. She is the principal investigator in the NIH Brains Grant, where her current research was inspired by biological neural networks, and it has utilized artificial neural networks to develop smart vaginal formulations of hyaluronic acid palm oil based organogel to be utilized as HIV prophylaxis in women. Her lab at the University of Lagos is currently working with the Population Council New York to pioneer electrospun fiber as a drug delivery platform for the development of vaginal dosage forms. I should also say that she has mentored over 20 undergraduates and master's level students and about 4 PhD students. She has over 18 publications and she has managed 2 research grants. She is currently the editor-in-chief of the Nigerian Journal of Pharmacy. So with a clap ovation, of course, in the comment section, if you do not mind, please let's make welcome Dr. Margaret Ilumoya, who has graciously accepted to educate us on the roles of pharmacists in bioengineering. Thank you so much, Ma, for joining us today. It's an honor. Thank you, Ma.
Thank you so much, Taiwo, for having me. And I'm very glad to be here. I quite enjoy speaking with young pharmacists because pharmacy is a beautiful profession, and it's the only aspect of medical science that gives you the latitude to be quite anything you want to do. And when we look at the way medicine is evolving now, it's important that we begin to reposition ourselves for the future, because the future is already here. And if we choose to practice pharmacy in the traditional sense of the word, a lot of us may be out of jobs. I think I would be able to, I think I'd like to share my screen. I think Taiwo has done a lot of justice to introducing me. I've worked with quite a number of young pharmacists, and I love working with young people. I love working with young people because even though today we're speaking with you guys that are young, you must also realize that as we go along, as you also mature in the profession, it's important that you give back. So as you're listening to me, it's important that you also know that one day you also will be on this platform speaking to other people. I have been fortunate to work on over 10 big grants with international bodies. And a lot of the things that we see is that you have the experienced researchers working alongside students. And that's one of the good things, at least we're trying to do at the University of Lagos in my lab. We have post-PhD students, master's level students, undergraduate students doing marvelous work. So I think at this point, I'll share my screen. I think Taiwo, I can share my screen, right? Can you see my screen?
Yes,
is my screen visible? Okay. So basically, I'll be speaking to new roles for pharmacists in engineering. We would be looking, basically everybody knows the answer to the first one, who is a pharmacist. Then we'll also be looking at engineering and pharmacy, pharmaceutical engineering, bioengineering, then the frontiers of pharmacy and engineering in drug development. Then I will take you briefly through the kind of research that I am currently doing, as well as my collaborators. Okay, so basically, when the WHO actually defines health as being a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely being the absence of disease or infirmity. And for me, this is very critical because I think when we are looking for new areas in which to practice and new areas in which to innovate, we must be able to look at health or pharmacy basically as an opportunity to be able to create medications, devices that will keep people in a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being before the presence of disease or infirmity emanates. This way, you are actually, your target market is actually much larger. So this is the first thing I want us to remember, that as a pharmacist, if you are targeting the presence of disease, then it means that your target is people that actually have a specific disease. But if you now begin to target products that will look at keeping you in a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, then you are up to looking at a moniker. We look at the herbal market that is termed complementary, which we look at as complementary medicines, especially when you look at your vitamins and things like that. These are million-dollar, billion-dollar industries. A lot of those formulations can be repurposed using novel formulation and bioengineering tools to tackle a population that is not sick, which is obviously larger than a population that is sick. So that is a niche that pharmacists can look into. That's this being health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being before we even look at our traditional area of tackling disease. So basically, who is a pharmacist? The pharmacist's role has actually changed from, we know the pharmacist is a compounder of drugs, but his roles have been expanded to one of to include clinical aspects. So definitely, WHO defined the concept of the 7-star pharmacist as a pharmacist who is a caregiver, which of course is what we practice in hospital pharmacy, decision-making, communicator, a manager, a lifelong learner, a teacher, and a leader. So when you incorporate all these 7-star concepts, then it means that we have roles that are outside the traditional role of pharmacy, which also includes manufacturing, quality control, drug discovery, regulatory pharmacy, drug dispensing, patient education, patient counseling, your pharmacy administration, and community service. Now, pharmaceutical care, which is the new statement work plan for pharmacists, which was coined in the 1990s, is actually a patient-centered care that is administered by pharmacists. It's usually outcome-oriented as a practice of pharmacy. And this practice model promoted the pharmacist as a key member of the healthcare team with responsibility for the outcomes of medication therapy. So pharmaceutical care delivered by pharmacists actually seeks to optimize patient outcomes. And this is very critical. When you seek to optimize patient outcomes, it's very critical in maintaining total wellness of the pharmacist. But now we are looking at engineering and pharmacy. Now, aside from the traditional niche of the pharmacy, where you would find them in community pharmacy or in hospital pharmacy, there is the new niche of engineering and pharmacy. If we look at the picture here, this is when one talks about engineering, this is actually what we think about when you have the engineering cap and you have big constructions of buildings and things like that. But there is now a close relation between engineering and pharmacy. If we look at engineering, engineering is the application of science and math to solve problems. Please, what did we do in pharmaceutics? Was it not science and math? So while scientists and inventors come up with innovations, it's actually engineers who apply these discoveries into the real world. So engineering is a part of STEM. STEM is your science, technology, engineering, and math education, which aims to engage students with science, technology, engineering, and mathematics as a discipline. And it's been practiced for millions of years. Engineers work on everything from cell membranes to construction and prosthetics, to improving engine transport efficiencies, delivering renewable energy resources, and get this, drug delivery. So you cannot talk about engineering without talking about pharmacy. And in the world that we live in, because of lifestyle modification, because of the advent of new technologies, new molecules, we're also experiencing diseases that were not in existence about 50, 100 years ago. So we need a crop of pharmacists who will be able to apply science and math to solve problems emanating from current disease conditions. And that is the engineering within pharmacy. So pharmaceutical engineering as a postgraduate course is actually offered in a number of schools in the UK and the US. And pharmaceutical engineering basically focuses on designing, building, improving manufacturing facilities that produce drugs. Although some pharmaceutical engineers also work on discovering formulations, most of the engineers are purely focused on delivering solutions for optimal manufacturing processes within pharma production facilities. Now, for every drug that comes out, there is a process, and there are things that have been done that each of the APIs and excipients go through before they come out as that final dosage form. Those responsible for those things are pharmaceutical engineers. And then one of the most important distinctions between pharmaceutical engineering and other branches of engineering is the fact that the pharmaceutical industry's strict requirement for good manufacturing practice is embedded in this particular area of pharmacy. So to excel as a pharmaceutical engineer, you must be able to handle increasingly complex good manufacturing practices demands, that's GMP, to ensure the medicines produced is safe for patients, And then GMP considerations are very vital in all design phases, from early conceptual design to implementation and execution of pharmaceutical quality systems. Now, when we move from pharmaceutical engineering, now pharmaceutical engineering basically looks at drug production. Drug production, not as a production pharmacist, because with your first degree, you can actually work as a production pharmacist. So we are not considering the production pharmacist. We are considering the pharmaceutical engineer, the person that ensures that those equipments actually work, the person that ensures that the good manufacturing GMP standards are taken into consideration, and the person that is able to facilitate a cohesion in all the equipments that are being used in the manufacturing industry when it looks at drug product manufacturing. So if we move from pharmaceutical engineering, we go into bioengineering. Bioengineering is a branch of engineering in which the engineering principles are applied to define and solve problems in biology and medicine. It is basic research-oriented activity carried out using the tools and principles of physical sciences to better develop a better understanding of biological systems. Bioengineering is one of the newer branches of medical science or pharmaceutical sciences that has made an impact on the way we see diseases, on the way we treat diseases. Because of bioengineering in the more developed world, people are living longer and feeling better as they live longer. Bioengineering actually is a study of also applied engineering practices in general biology. It is the more broad approach topic when compared to your biomedical engineering. Your bioengineering will cover agriculture. And when we say it covers agriculture, you say, but you're a pharmacist. Your paracetamol acetaminophen came from Salix alba, which is a plant. So agriculture is your business. When we look at the antimalarials that we are taking currently, artemisinin combination therapies, your ACTs, these were obtained from plants, and that is bioengineering. Have we sat down to think why we would have a plant from China being taken up by WHO for anti-malarial treatments in sub-Saharan Africa, when we have Dogon Yaro and we have so many other plants that have been in existence? It is also, this is principally because we have refused to develop the resources that we have using bioengineering. Just think about 2 or 3 of you coming together, going to look at your villages, especially where you have low prevalence of malaria. Pick up 2-3 plants that have anti-malarial activity, employ bioengineering principles to it, get a formulation that can be marketed in sub-Saharan Africa, where you have over 1 billion doses of anti-malarials being sold every year, and you have a market share of 10%. Can you imagine what that would do for you as a developer or for the country that supports that kind of research? So this is where agriculture is exceedingly important. And then it covers topics like pharmaceuticals, which of course is our core area. Then natural resources. A lot of people just do not look at natural resources when it comes to being a pharmacist. I would give an example. Nigeria, we used to have rubber plantations where we export rubber from. The entire African continent imports surgical gloves from Thailand and Malaysia. These are agricultural, natural resources, and then we also have oil that we can use for our plastics, for consumables. So if we can bioengineer what we have, then we would be able to attend to that niche of markets for consumables. Of course, we look at genetically modified foods are already available in a lot of countries abroad. So that also is a result of bioengineering. So in addition, your bioengineering covers your general medical practices through biomedical engineering, though biomedical engineering focuses more on this field than the general bioengineering. So bioengineering practices are applied to many different industries, and this includes healthcare, but biological engineering practices and may not necessarily be explicit for medical purposes. And that's where it's beautiful, because when you get into this field, you may not necessarily be looking at medical purposes. We can be looking at environmental purposes. We can be looking at the cosmetic industry. We can be looking at the furniture industry. It is actually limitless opportunity. So now the question is new roles for pharmacists in engineering. What are these new roles? And that's why I put the YPG logo there. So I would consider this under frontiers of pharmacy and engineering in drug development. The pharmaceutical and medicine manufacturing industry is focused on creating a variety of medicines and other healthcare products that will improve the lives of people. And pharmaceutical industry is known for its prominence in R&D of new drugs. Yet the actual manufacturing of these drugs in the last stage is a much longer process. And this process starts with R&D departments testing thousands and thousands of chemical compounds in the effort of finding a new drug. And this is where bioengineering, artificial intelligence comes in. The traditional way of testing drugs is very long. And it would be instrumental to actually look at what we found out with the COVID vaccine. We found out that the COVID came in 2019, December of 2019. And within a year to 18 months, we already had vaccines ready. The RNA technology that was utilized in production of these vaccines had been studied and been used by bioengineers. In actual fact, that work that was done, one of the vaccines was actually a product of research, PhD research, from Oxford University. And that research was targeted at the development of the malaria vaccine. So bioengineering principles, when mixed with pharmaceutical sciences, enables us to shorten the R&D period of obtaining new drugs. And it enables us to sift through testing thousands of chemical compounds, enabling us to find new drugs in a shorter period of time. So a large part of this is applied research, where scientific knowledge is used to develop a drug targeted to specific use, as it was done for COVID. Now, after a drug is developed, it's tested through the screening process, and after this, clinical investigations are conducted where the drug is tested on human patients. And of course, we all know all the things from phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, marketing, and then post-marketing surveillance that goes in. And this basically is the frontiers of pharmacy and engineering, because the bioengineering enables us to be able to have easier access and manage a lot of information through data mining, especially utilizing artificial intelligence to get the drugs through this clinical testing in a quicker time frame. So drug development in the industry is basically hinged on research and development. Unfortunately, we do not have as much research and development happening currently in Nigeria as we should, but it is still happening on a small scale. And these are the areas that it would be important for you people to pay attention to. Now, the field of biomedical engineering encompasses the processing of testing different or millions of combinations to create new drugs. Where engineering, whether you're genetic engineering, tissue engineering, fluid engineering is required. And amongst the many applications are advances in materials and material science, processes, implants, devices, informatics, and all this is geared towards patient rehabilitation, as well as an improved quality of life. Why we talk about geared towards patient rehabilitation? is because we are looking at materials, bioengineered materials that are tailored towards people that are having an existing disease condition. Improving the quality of life, we are looking at applications and advances that will keep healthy people healthy for longer. So the bioengineering or biomedical science or pharmaceutical engineering targets both the individuals that are sick as well as the individuals that are enjoying a good quality of life. One, to restore health, having patients rehabilitation, the other to sustain a good quality of life and improve on it. So there is a market share for everybody that wants to come into this area. Now, when we look at frontiers of pharmacy and engineering, these are the companies that we look at. On this end, we can see AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Janssen, Johnson & Johnson. These were the forerunners of RNA bioengineering technology. And they are the ones that have made billions of dollars from development of the COVID vaccine. Billions of dollars. There is none of their formulation scientists, bioengineers, that is currently not smiling to the bank, including, and you know, we talked about the vaccines that were developed at Oxford University, the Johnson & Johnson vaccines. These were developed by PhD students. So I just want you to think about that. And then we also have big companies like your Gilead, your AbbVie, Bayer, Roche. You guys know a lot of these companies. Each one of them is playing currently in the field of bioengineering. It is no longer traditional pharmacy as we have known it. So companies hire professionals in this field because of their technical expertise. So it means that once you've gotten your bachelor's of pharmacy degree, if you want to veer into bioengineering, you would actually need to consider a master's and a PhD degree in pharmaceutics and pharmaceutical technology, or pharmaceutical engineering, or bioengineering, or biomedical engineering. It's a wide field to play in. But you can look at which of those engineering fields actually you want to tend towards, because those are the areas that you'd be able to have technical expertise, problem-solving ability, and adaptability that would enable you undertake field work for large science and technology companies. Your bachelor's of pharmacy degree or your PharmD as a first degree is excellent for you if you're going into hospital practice, if you're going into community practice. Now, in the world of drug development, especially when you're targeting to work for companies with these labels, you must have in mind that you would need an extra educational degree that is science-based. You must know the science that will improve your technical expertise. But you must also have what we call problem-solving ability. So that means that not only are you going to cram everything in your textbook and know it, you must be able to synthesize what you have learned. I know that pharmacy school can be taxing, so there's a lot of cramming. But please, especially for those of you that are still undergraduates, please take time out to actually understand what you are being taught. Because pharmacy is probably the only course where you would actually know 60% of what the doctor knows, 30% of what the marketer knows, 20% of what the lawyer knows, 50% of what the agri people know. So you need to learn everything so that by the time you come out and you now want to go into industry, it would be easy for you to move into engineering, because engineering involves a lot of math, which you do in your first year and which you do for 4 years in pharmaceutics. So basically, the frontiers of pharmacy and engineering work is generally problem-based, and it requires adherence to protocol. It requires standard research and laboratory methodologies. So most entry-level positions are a part of a large team. So if you want to be in bioengineering, you must be a team player. it is not optional. It is very rare that you would actually succeed in developing a novel product on your own. It is rare to near impossible. So usually, if you're going into R&D positions, at least I will speak from where I am familiar with. In the US, when you're going into R&D positions, the entry-level positions are usually for people with PhDs. That is usually your entry-level position, a PhD. And then you would work as part of a team. Within that team, you'll have your pharmacist, you'll have your biochemist, you'll have your cell biologist. Then you that is a pharmacist with an added degree in pharmaceutics or drug development or bioengineering, you now have that added advantage because you have an idea of the clinical presentation, and now you have the added knowledge of engineering principles, bioengineering principles to tackle that problem. So basically, you will work as part of a large team. You'll typically be managed by a senior scientist or a team leader. New employees usually undergo intense training programs, and you'll be required to adhere to standard protocols and follow applicable guidelines and laws governing research and design. An advanced degree is typically required to move into more senior roles in the field and to lead individuals and project teams. So many top firms actually offer internships, typically between the junior and senior years for undergraduates and between first and second years for graduate students. I know that in time past, at least while we were undergraduates, there were actually internship positions abroad where you could actually go and work for pharmaceutical companies abroad for 3 months, come back to Nigeria. I don't know if such is available. I will find out and also communicate with YPG. But these are the kind of opportunities that are required to open your eyes to what bioengineering means to drug developers and pharmacists. So many people enter the profession through an internship that would convert to a job upon completion. And then due to the growing nature of the industry, and this industry is growing, you know, when we talk about hospital pharmacists, in the next 20 to 30 years, we would have drugs being dispensed via ATMs. We would have pharmacists that will be doing telepharmacy. And because we would also be moving to patient-centered medication, we would now have bioengineered dock places for drug development in hospitals. So it is important that everybody listening here, every young person listening here should take notes. Currently, there's so many places where we're growing skin for wound healing. This will be done in 25 years' time in pharmacies, in hospitals. If you do not have those skills, other people in ancillary courses will get those skills and you will not be able to stop them from practicing in the hospital. So now, due to the growing nature of the industry, organizations recruit heavily, usually from campuses, and seek to secure top talents from schools all over the world. I am mentioning secure top talents from schools all over the world because I want you to understand that the fact that you are schooling here in Nigeria does not make you any less of a scientist than the person schooling in Harvard. Some of my PhD students won an Emory Award earlier on in the year, beating schools like Harvard. So what you need is to ensure that where you are a top talent when recruits, and then you also avail yourself to recruitment websites so that you can be picked. So positions can be found through Handshake or on individual company websites. So you must actually begin to look under entry-level positions or experienced job postings. So I will briefly at this point talk about my research. The work I do is basically divided into these three headings. I use artificial neural networks, artificial intelligence in my drug delivery applications. So what this means is I do a lot of data mining. I use a lot of computer programming to be able to determine what I would use in my formulations and in what quantity I would use them. Then I also work on developing topical dosage forms for wound healing and vaginal HIV prophylaxis, as well as electrospun fibers. And for the electrospun fibers, we incorporate drugs, we incorporate extracellular matrices for wound healing, as well as herbal extracts. So basically, one of the first things I did when we worked with artificial intelligence, and this work was done with collaboration from colleagues in University of Benin in the Department of Chemical Engineering. And I want to also state that, I had mentioned earlier in one of the slides that you must be able to work with people. Once you graduate pharmacy school and you're into research and development, it is always a teamwork. There's never anything that you just wake up and say, oh, it was 100% me. So you must be able to collaborate. So between 2016 and 17, we were able to use artificial intelligence via central composite design to formulate and optimize your normal gentamicin as a hydrogel. And we were able to infuse Tetracarpidium conophorum, which is conophorum extract, which is, it's actually a seed. This plant is available in Nigeria here. And this was designed for topical delivery. On this work, we had collaboration from University of Benin Chemical Engineering, and then I worked with master's students and 3 undergraduate students. And then in 2019, 2020, we went on to develop and optimize an antioxidant polyherbal cream. We also used artificial neural network aided response surface methodology. All these things I am talking about here, they're currently online, so you could actually go and look them up. This work was actually very instrumental to one of the products that later came to the markets this year. We made use of herbal extracts, but we were able to synthesize the activities of those extracts utilizing artificial neural network aided designs. Now, I've done quite a bit of work as well on vaginal HIV prophylaxis, where our lab actually aims to develop things that women will be able to use to prevent HIV. So we've been able to develop trigger-sensitive hyaluronic acid palm oil-based organogels that have been shown to work to prevent HIV/AIDS. And this was also developed using artificial neural networks. So you see that when we are looking at bioengineering, it's very fluid. It's the same principles we utilized for our gels, and now we are now moving it over to HIV prevention. And I did a lot of work with people in hematology. Eakomu is hematology professor. Velusami was from the University of Manchester, electrical engineer, and then Amenegawa, chemical engineer. Adetuyi was my undergraduate student, and Delesho was my master's student, and this was a funded research. Then we went on to develop mucoadhesive biogels containing tenofovir and maraviroc. I also worked with engineers as well on this project. Then this year, we've been able to publish mucoadhesive microspheres and now assess its effect on vaginal lactic acid bacterial microflora. We were also able to do this work because we had funding from the US. And in the team, we had bioengineers, we had systems engineers, as well as design engineers on this team. This year, we were able, my team was also able to bring to life a herbal product that had been developed using artificial neural networks in my laboratory. We did all the characterizations, physicochemical and biological characterizations. The trade name of the product is Pinan Cream. And we also were able to run a mini clinical trial of the product with on skin. This is the product here, and we also were able to evaluate its usefulness, especially in individuals that had chemical burns. As we can see, you can see this lady's face being nearly burnt, and then after she has used the cream, you can see the skin texture and the tone completely changing. This is as a result of bioengineering, and we were working with plant extracts, and we now came up with a product that was eventually launched and is currently available for sale on the market. It's a topical product. That's it here. It was launched at the Industrial Pharmacists Conference earlier on this year. Now with electrospun fibers, this area of research used to be a traditionally materials engineering area of research. Traditionally, you hardly used to find pharmacists in this field until about 5 to 10 years ago. And we currently have capability in the University of Lagos to create these fibers. I think ours is the first lab in ours is the first lab in sub-Saharan Africa to actually have a fully functional automated electrospinning setup to develop electrospun fibers. So we've been able to characterize collagen-based electrospun scaffolds containing silver sulfur diazine and A-linearis, which is a plant extract, for potential wound healing applications. This research is online, and for this research, we had huge collaborations from University of Manchester, from University of Witwatersrand in South Africa, and of course, the engineering department in the University of Lagos. In 2019, I worked with colleagues. This is a research team I worked with, colleagues in Manchester Metropolitan University, Department of Engineering, and then a software developer, Wekebere. He's based in Uganda. And then I was the polymer. I developed I bioengineered the polymer, and then we actually created a low-cost pregnancy disorder diagnostic device for sub-Saharan Africa, which we call the preeclampsia detector. And this was an award given to us by the Frontiers of Engineering for Development, the Royal Academy of Engineering in the UK. And this product is currently piloted in Uganda, and we hope to be able to do a second pilot in Kenya and South Africa. And this is the reason why I would always say that as a pharmacist, you must be able to collaborate. As a pharmacist, when you're playing in the engineering space, because you have medical knowledge, you are at an advantage. And then you've done a lot of math, you have done pharmaceutics, then it means you can fluidly get into the engineering space. That is what makes you exceedingly unique. So in 2019, I was listed amongst the top 100 emerging biomedical engineers in Africa. And then we went on to speak in about 7 different countries on the work that we were doing with polymers for wound healing, with our polymers that we put in our preeclampsia detector. So these were all the people that we, worked with, the software developer from Uganda, as well as I'd actually like to acknowledge Noma Ndiweni. She's actually an electronic engineer, and at the time that an electronic engineer from Zimbabwe, and at the time that I started working with her, she had just finished her first degree when she joined our team. So why I'm mentioning this, because I met Noma as a 23-year-old electrical engineer, and we met at a conference, and she joined our team, and she was very, very instrumental towards developing that preeclampsia detector. So you must be able to collaborate. And when you collaborate with people, you must be able to listen and learn, because those are one of the wonderful things I loved about her. And currently she's finished her master's degree. She's currently on her PhD. And this is because she enjoyed collaborations with people outside of her field. So Royal Academy of Engineering listing and recognizing me as a pharmacist amongst top 100 emerging biomedical engineers in Africa. I think that was one of the biggest milestones. I was really proud. And amongst the top 100 emerging biomedical engineers in Africa, we had 3 people being pharmacists. So this is not something that we should overlook. And it's something that if the trend continues, in the next 5 years, this list will come out and we would have about 50 people being pharmacists. So the question is, are you up for that challenge? So what do employers want? The first thing employers want is a higher degree. If you're going to go into bioengineering or pharmaceutical engineering, your employers will want a higher degree. Your employers will need excellent written and oral communication skills, strong research, statistics and quantitative skills, operations, upkeep of the lab. You must have all this. Then you must have the ability to analyze and distill a lot of information. You must have high-level problem-solving ability. And then you must have a well-rounded life experience. Well-rounded life experience, I always put it here: global travel, cultural exposure, language training. It's very important that you travel. Even if you don't have money, PSN hosts a conference in a different state every year. Please attend PSN conference. If you attend for four years, you would have visited 4 different states. If you're part of YPG, find out what is happening. Because you see, when you travel, you learn and you have cultural exposure. Language training is very important. A lot of us, most of us listening in here, English may not have been the only language we grew up listening to. So it is important that you learn that language that you grew up listening to, so that you have another language aside from English that you understand. This is exceedingly important. I have had to act as a translator when working with herbal practitioners to better understand why their herbal brews work. So when you live in Lagos, please try and understand Yoruba. If perhaps you find yourself in the US, learn English and Spanish. Wherever you find yourself, please learn the language of the community that you find yourself, in case you will stumble upon things that would be useful as a drug. So a well-rounded life experience is very important. Global travel, cultural exposure, language training. Please, if you have opportunity to travel, please travel. FIP will be giving a lot of subventions for young pharmacists, for students. Please make use of these opportunities, because there may be opportunities where your tickets will be paid for. Make use of these opportunities and travel. What you gain from traveling cannot be quantified by any kind of certificate. Now, in addition, some positions may require more specialized knowledge, and these include, but are not limited to, computer and IT skills. I don't need to talk about that. I've already spoken about artificial intelligence, artificial neural networks. I don't need to tell you what level of IT and computer skills that would entail. Okay, I put it on this side again: foreign language proficiency. Please learn another language. Even if it is your mother tongue, Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, make sure you learn another language aside from English. Then for those of you that did French in school, please brush up the French. China is going to be the next world leader with respect to pharma. There's nothing stopping you people from learning the Chinese language, because China already controls more than 45% of the world's trade and controls over 78.5% of the trade that comes to Africa. So why will you not even learn how to read, speak, write, synthesize the Chinese language? That already gives you an advantage, because it means that you can do research in their laboratories in China. You can go to China, study their herbal products, and be able to understand the language in a way that will make you take advantage of what it is that you have seen, then translate it to what it is you want to do. So experience living and working abroad is important. Previous experience in leadership positions is very important. This is very critical, especially for those of you that are class reps, YPG coordinators. Every young person must get involved. Then specific academic and technical knowledge, we already mentioned this. So at this point, I would like to acknowledge people that have funded my research. I've had my research funded by my primary, I must mention my primary constituency at the University of Lagos. I've also had my research, my HIV research was funded by Harvard. My HIV research was also funded by Northwestern University. It was actually a collaboration between Northwestern University and Harvard. National Institutes of Health also has funded my HIV research. Royal Academy of Engineering has funded a lot of my engineering research and my polymer science research. Population Council as well. Center for Biomedical Research, I am currently working with them because I've worked with them as a consultant. I also have worked with PZ Cousins as a consultant, and Jiven Pharmaceutical Consulting Incorporated in New York is currently one of my development partners. So I want to thank everybody for listening. And this picture is the picture of our it's a picture in one corner of my lab in the University of Lagos. These are fully automated electrospinning setup that we are hoping to be able to use to develop very novel fibers for vaginal drug delivery that hopefully should come to the market within the next decade. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much for sharing light bulb, a lot of light bulb knowledge. Yes, with I believe that all of the people who participated in this session will not return. You've helped us to see that it is possible. Pharmacists blazing trails, utilizing technology to advance healthcare wherever we find ourselves. I'd like to share our learnings for you. Anyone would you like to volunteer? You can type in the comment section, or you can raise your hand so I can call you to unmute yourself. Anyone? I like what exactly jumped at us. What key takeaways did you gain? And then if you have questions, yes, this is also a good time to share your questions. You can type in the comment section or raise your hand so you can be called upon. I see a lot of thank yous in the comments. Great. Thank you. Wow, thanks. Thank you very much. That was insightful. Good. Yes. So if you have questions too, this is a good time to type in the comment section, or you can be called upon. For me, what stood out particularly is collaboration. And I think that bioengineering is a beautiful space where you can interact with different professionals from different walks of life, people that you can draw inspiration from. I hear you when you mentioned some of the professionals you had collaborated with, an electric engineer. I think an electronic engineer.
Yeah. Yes, electrical engineering. Yeah.
It's wonderful. Biochemists, cell biologists. Wonderful. These are people whose works will even inspire you to think more, to dream about possibilities that exist in the field, so that it can all contribute more effectively to the state of care in Nigeria. I hope all of us went down from Nigeria. As all trying to advance our yes, so that our knowledge of biotechnology will actually impact Nigeria. Or you would like to share your
Oh, I think we've lost Taiwo there. So I don't know, I would like to get any questions or comments if there are any. Yes, Adeni, you can unmute yourself. Your hand is up. You can unmute yourself and speak. Adeni Abdul Wahab.
Uh, Thank you for enlightening and eye-opening session. In the course of your presentation, you made mention of dispensing drugs in the near future. So that's to the question of supply chain. So, will I say the implication or the effects of personalized or individualized on the future of on health, logistics, and supply chain? Thank you.
Thank you, Adeni. Well, I would like to apologize because I said in the near future. Actually, since 2020, because I work a lot in the HIV space, since January of 2020 in South Africa, patients no longer, in Pretoria, South Africa, Witwatersrand in South Africa, patients don't interact with pharmacists to collect their medication. It's already being done. You collect your medications from an ATM, a drug ATM. You slide in your card and you get your medication. So we are not even talking about the future. It's already happening. It's already happening. So when you talk about supply chain, that is a different aspect of pharmacy. And I wouldn't want to speak to it. Why I mentioned this is because for those of us that want to still practice the traditional pharmacy, traditional pharmacy, it has a time frame, because when we talk about bioengineering, pharmacists will be making bioengineered products on hospital wards. That is the future, whether we want to accept it or not. And if we are not equipped to do that, we will have other people who are learning the science or who are equipped doing that in the hospitals. And when we look at the pharmaceutical companies, you know, we have the people that we call pharmaceutical engineers. These are the people supposed to be taking care of the equipment and things like that. Because we do not have that particular manpower, that's why we have your regular engineers in the pharmaceutical workspace. So what we are trying to say here is to look beyond traditional pharmacy practice and carve a niche. When we look at logistics, logistics is a different science on its own. I know that in the US, they actually have courses on pharmaceutical logistics systems. So that would also be an interesting avenue to also focus on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So do we have any other question? Any other person with further questions? So, Ma, because many of the participants in this session are right, and it seems that many of them do not even have a clear-cut vision of what exactly they would like to do with pharmacy, post-pharmacy school. I'd like to ask you, maybe you could take us through your career journey from pharmacy school, post-pharmacy school till date. Was bioengineering clear to you from the outset? How did you?
Oh no, definitely not. Taiwo, I think that's an excellent question. Definitely not. When I finished pharmacy school, I worked in the hospital. I did my internship in the hospital. I worked in Ibadan. I did a teaching hospital for a while before moving down to Lagos. And I worked in a private hospital in Lagos. And I think for me, it was a light bulb moment because I worked with HIV patients. And it was just the fact that a woman wasn't able to, she really didn't have a choice as to things like contraception. A lot of those things were, based on her partner. If the partner refused to use a condom, she couldn't protect herself from HIV. So that's one of the things that made me go into do a master's degree in pharmaceutics and pharmaceutical technology. And my PhD actually focused on diarrhea, and I actually made tablets for my PhD. So it was, for me, the light bulb moment was when I was in the US for my PhD, and I started looking and seeing what other people were doing. And the question now came in, where can I put myself that I would be relevant anywhere in the world, that people will seek the knowledge that I have anywhere in the world. That is what took me to bioengineering. So so for me, it was farm and farm tech, and then I now veered into bioengineering. So basically, when you move into a particular sphere, you must be answering a call, or rather, you must be looking at what problem are you trying to solve. So that's the thing. So where does your interest lie? That's the first thing. What problem are you trying to solve? That's the second thing. You cannot be going into somewhere without having a distinct problem that you're trying to solve. And then when you're looking at how you're solving the problem, the next question you will ask yourself is, what technology can be used to solve that problem? Now, it doesn't really matter if that technology is not in pharmacy. A lot of the things that we are seeing now in terms of new drugs emanated from engineering. A lot of the molecules that we're seeing now emanated from agriculture. And that's what makes pharmacy very fluid, because you can move. It's not like medicine that it's rigid. You must be in the hospital, you're seeing your patients, you're doing the research, it's medical. You can move. And then you even look at it that, for example, I tell my students all the time, the cosmetics industry is a $5 billion industry in Africa. $5 billion in Africa. There is no big cosmetic chain in Africa. A lot of us are using products that were not meant for our skin type or our skin tone. What are we doing about it? They taught you guys nanoparticles, they taught you guys, liposomes, they taught you all those things. How are you applying those things into making, you did divided powders. Why can't we have nanoparticularized powders as face powders packaged for beautiful African women? This is bioengineering plus your pharmaceutics, and that is you smiling to the bank. So what is your core? What do you want to do? What do you really love to do? So I think for me, that was just a light bulb moment.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you so much. And like you rightly said, the cosmetics industry is one area where we need more pharmacists to take charge and begin to utilize your expertise to advance formulations for the benefit of the patient. Thank you, Ma. Does anyone have further questions? Much questions. I know you are very interested in the industrial pharmacy space, and then having someone here who is in the bioengineering space. I'm not sure if you have questions regarding the intersection of the bioengineering and then the industrialization of that process, especially in Nigeria. Melody.
Yeah, I'm with you. Good evening, fam. I'm with you.
Good evening.
All right. I have a question to ask. Can I go ahead?
Yes, please.
All right. Good. Good evening, ma. You talked about the roles of bioengineers in the pharma industry. So I want to ask, in Nigeria, what do you think is the future of bioengineers in Nigeria, and what roles can they play in the pharma industry in particular? Thank you.
Okay, I will rephrase your question. What roles are they currently playing is what I'm going to be talking about. You guys are familiar with NIPRID in Abuja. NIPRID currently launched COVID herbals that was bought in 6 figures USD. And it's a bioengineered product that was developed by scientists in NIPRID in Nigeria. Then there is a startup that is based in Lagos that has developed a herbal vial that is being used for cosmetics, and they are currently speaking with pharma companies in the UK for outright purchase. So basically, bioengineering in Nigeria is just growing, but it is what? It is growing. You have more opportunities, of course, when you work abroad. I know that I shared the slides of companies to take notes, and unfortunately, I don't think I shared any Nigerian company. So if you begin to get these skills, it is very instructive that you should work with leading companies abroad, the US, UK, Japan, China. That's where that's where you would probably learn a lot about the technology after getting the education. But then when you finish learning, it is very, very, very important that you also begin to think how you can create your own wealth and your own products from that knowledge. I hope I've answered your question, Melody.
Yeah, yes, you are. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Yes, and then I know some people were asking for my email. I shared my email, editor@psnnational.org. That's my official email as the editor-in-chief. So you could also shoot me emails there, and I will respond as soon as I can.
All right, great. Thank you so much. If you have any other question, now is a good time to ask your question. So on a final note, what would be your advice? Yes, because here we have a mixed audience. We have pharmacy students, we have recent pharmacy graduates who have found it students, former students from the University of Vegas. So what would be your final words to all of these participants who are still in the early phase of their career, seek to find themselves and of course, find ways to make the best of their career, especially in pharmacy practice, and especially in pharmacy practice where we do not have many guiding lights in core pharmaceutical research, clinical pharmacy. Yes, to be your words of advice to them.
Well, I won't say anything different from what a lot of you may not have heard. You need to read. You must be able to read. I shared slides on the fact that you must be able to harness information, understand information. You should read, and then you should dream. If I can't sit down here and tell you that I knew I would be where I knew I would be doing what I'm doing today. No, but what I knew I had about 10 years ago was I knew what it was I wanted to do, and I wanted to do something exciting. I wanted to do something different. And it's not something that you would be able to say, because by the time you start talking about it, it's like, oh, that's impossible. In my dictionary, nothing is impossible. There's absolutely nothing impossible. So dream. Dreaming is important. But when you dream, you must be able to go the knowledge route. If you want to be an importer that will be bringing in 50 containers every month, dream and then go and learn from the people that are doing that. If you want to go into bioengineering, dream, go online, learn. There's so many free online courses. If you go to edX, you can learn virtually anything. I learned how to use AI on my own. I taught myself how to use artificial neural networks. So you dream and then you do the work. The work is never easy. It's never easy. Yesterday I was in the lab. My master students were in the lab. They were in the lab as early as 7 o'clock. They didn't leave the lab till 7:38. So when we come and then we say, oh, the UK has recognized us as top engineers in Africa, it doesn't come easy. It does not come easy. So you must read, you must dream, and then you must put in the work.
Thank you very much. My final question, another question just came in. So in your years of scientific works, what would you say has been the most difficult moment or the most challenging experience you have had in the course of course of doing your work as a scientist?
I think funding. I think funding. When I started out was the most difficult. I think that was the most difficult thing to deal with. That was the most difficult thing to deal with. But as time goes on, and that's why I said you must put in the work. When I started out, I had to fund my research from my pockets. But when that research was acknowledged, I got funding from the University of Nottingham, then I now got funding from the University of Pennsylvania, and the rest is history. So you must start from somewhere, and that it's so important for people to know that you put in the work. It's easy for me to say, oh, it's God all the way. There's nothing like that. You will work hard. God even asks you to work hard. So you work. It's a lot of work. Funding was very challenging, but by the time you do good work, then grace will follow, but you must work. So for me, funding was the initial challenge. And that's why currently 70% of the students I work with have their master's degrees program funded from my research. So if I have 5 students, 3 of them will not need to spend any money on their master's research. So that's the advantage of funding. And that's why also we are able to do the kind of work that we have. That kind of work that we're doing. So initially, I think the greatest challenge was funding. And even though we are still having funding, we still want more.
We pray that you get more by God's grace. Well done, Ma. Well done, Ma. Kudos to you and your team. Yeah, I would like you to mention mentorship. I remember when we met at the NAIP conference some months ago, you mentioned that, yes, you are open to mentorship, but you will only mentor female. Why the bias? Female students. I think you said female masters or PhD students, right?
Well, usually, I've been very fortunate in the past 4 or 5 years. I've had funding from grants, and I'd rather mentor more women into bioengineering fields, principally because I think that was 2014. I was at AAPS, the American Association of Pharmaceutical Scientists, and I was giving a talk. I just stood in the hall. I was presenting my paper. I had won an award, and it was a hall filled with just select bioengineers, and there were just 3 women there. It wasn't very palatable. So for me, I think it's good that we encourage more women to come into bioengineering. I think that for me is what motivates me. When I got my award in London and I was listed amongst the top 100 bioengineers in Africa, of the top 100, we were only 11 women out of 100. So I think this is this type of statistics that motivates me to fund research, especially at the master's level for women. More women must come into bioengineering.
More women and more pharmacists, hopefully. So if you're
yes.
interested in bioengineering, maybe you could stand a chance to be mentored and funded by Dr. Margaret Indoma. Thank you so much, Ma. It has been a delight listening to you, learning from you. And I believe that the participants here are grateful so much to you, grateful that you chose to pursue your cause, grateful that you are doing what you're doing, standing as a guiding light to females, to female pharmacy students, to female pharmacists out there, to female pharmacists who are interested in biotechnology, bioengineering. And we can only pray that you keep going higher. And we look forward to blazing trails like you in the nearest future. Thank you so much, Ma.
Thank you very much, Taiwo, for having me. And I want to thank everyone that is online. You know, I wasn't expecting this number online. I'm very happy to be speaking to all of you. I think it's an honor to be speaking to you guys.
Thank you, Ma. And thank you very much, everyone. Do enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Do take care.
Have a lovely evening. Thank you very much.
You can watch the recording via our YouTube page. I just shared the link to the recording in the comment section. Or you can just go ahead on YouTube and check out Farmer Incubation Hub. You will find it right there. Thank you, everyone. Do enjoy the rest of your day.